The whole of blue economy activities in the ocean depend fundamentally on safe, stable, and third, that is secure maritime space, very specific to the sea lanes of communication here. And globally, if you look in, ocean-based sector supports not less than at least 100 million jobs. This is significant and this is massive. And that's why these, when they are so concentrated on fisheries and aquaculture, sustainable aquaculture can enhance food security and also export earnings. As I mentioned in the beginning, when 80% of the global trade moves by the sea, strengthening ports and logistics is very, very crucial. It's only in the last, let's say, maybe 20 years, I think we have been seriously working on this thing, ports, enhancing them, and many other things. You see the initiatives like the Villeneuve port in which is a natural port in Trivandrum. Now, over a period of time, this is rising, but at the same time, they also have their own limitations. We still haven't made the best use of it. We haven't created special economic zones around the ports. Now, these are also equally important because the freight charges that commonly industrialists or industries have to pay through, that's also very expensive.
Greetings, listeners, and welcome to our podcast series, Reimagining the Bay of Bengal, presented by Asian Confluence. And I'm your host, Neeraj. Today, we are examining the growing nexus between the blue economy and maritime security in the Bay of Bengal. Asian Confluence has established the Center of Bay of Bengal Studies in Shillong to promote research, dialogue, and collaboration on the region's shared future. So, in this particular episode, we are exploring blue economy and maritime nexus. As always, we'll unpack this through 5 thought-provoking questions designed to spark clarity and inspire conversation. Today we are joined by Dr. Nanda Kishor, who is a head and associate professor at the Department of Politics and International Studies, Pondicherry University. He holds the Shri Aurobindo Chair and coordinates the Center of Ghanaian Studies at the university. He was also the formerly head of the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations at Manipal Academy of Higher Education. He holds a MPhil and PhD from Hyderabad Central University and completed a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Leiden, Netherlands. His teaching and research cover geopolitics of West Asia, Indian foreign policy, concept of war and peace, and terrorism. And he is also the author of the critically acclaimed book, Reimagining India in the Geopolitics of 21st Century. He has been a visiting faculty at Indian Naval Academy, College of War Air Warfare, and several HRDC centers. Dr. Nanda Kishor, it's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Neeraj. It's always a pleasure to converse with you. Thanks also to Asian Confluence for having me here. It's a great topic and it's a great work that the center is doing. I've been following the work for a while now. It's been amazing work and I enjoy being here.
Thank you, Dr. Nanda. So let's begin with the fundamentals here. And my first question is to you that how would you define the concept of blue economy? Over to you.
Thank you. The blue economy, because it's a buzzword now, a lot of people seems to be talking about it. It essentially refers to the sustainable use of ocean and coastal resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods, and also employment while ensuring the larger idea of the health of the marine ecosystem. That's where it all comes in. Now, what this particular definition or the thought behind the idea of blue economy covers is that it has been given by World Bank and the United Nations. They would want to highlight the economic, environmental, and social sustainability within ocean-based activities. Because at the broader level, blue economy also encompasses several other components and most of the economic activities of the oceans, seas, rivers, and the coastal zone. That's why it is much more a broader concept, which will include fisheries, which will include aquaculture, maritime transport, offshore energy, tourism, and even marine biotechnology. That's why it is a very, very vast and encompassing topic itself. And over a period of time, as I told you, that this has become a buzzword. The Worldwide Fund for Nature, that is WWF, and the global ocean economy is estimated to be somewhere around $2.5 trillion annually. Now you can imagine the scale in which the whole idea of global economy that runs into the idea of blue economy itself. And that's where it is coming in. It's more of a concept that is on development paradigm, not just what is restricted to the economic concept part of it, though it is called as blue economy, because it reconciles growth with ecological balance, resource efficiency, and also the thought of long-term ocean governance. So governance encompasses lot many topics under.
So that's a very clear and comprehensive, the meaning and the definition which you have just tried to put it in a very simple way. And it also sets the stage very nicely. So now we also know that the blue economy doesn't exist in isolation from the security concern. So my question is also, based on that. So in what ways is the blue economy linked to the maritime security and the protection of sea lines of communication?
Oh, that's actually fundamental to the very thought of blue economy itself, because the whole of blue economy activities in the ocean depend fundamentally on safe, stable, and third, that is secure maritime space, very specific to the sea lanes of communication here. Now, maritime transport, let's say first concept, if we are taking it up, it's a core pillar of blue economy. Everybody is intertwined with regard to this. Now, it carries more than 80% of the global trade by volume, making the whole of SLOCs itself as the backbone of the global economy. Because any disruption, either due to piracy, terrorism, or geopolitical tensions, what we are witnessing now with regard to the geopolitical tensions that are going on in West Asia, it's all associated with many of these concepts itself, because even blockades for that matter, all of them can severely impact global supply chains, energy flows, and also food security. Now, for example, the choke point that we have been witnessing as of now in the Hormuz, right? We also see the Malacca dilemma that China goes through in the Malacca Strait, or the Mandeb one we are talking about. Now, these are the ones which are handling a substantial share of the global oil and cargo flows. Now, securing these routes ensures uninterrupted trade, and that will sustain sectors like shipping, fisheries, and also offshore energy. Where nations are so dependent on the seas, because maritime security will also protect living and non-living marine resources. That's the other side of the component, because I mentioned in the definitional part, because it includes fisheries, seabed minerals, and also offshore hydrocarbons. Now, any illegal, unreported, or unregulated component, including that of fishing alone, will cost a massive amount when it comes to global economy that runs into billions annually, and also it will undermine the coastal livelihoods itself. And another important component that comes when we talk about the blue economy is linked to maritime security and the protection of the sea lanes of communication, is also about the idea of maritime domain awareness, because the ability to monitor activities at sea using whether it is satellite, radar, or naval patrols, all these become part and parcel of it, because any transnational threat which might be associated with smuggling, human trafficking, environmental crimes, to many other things. Some are human made, some are naturally that are happening, but all given into this particular understanding, it is an enabler of economic productivity area. And that is the reason we see that every investment that is made in blue economy sector would face very high risk. Along with that, it also makes it some sort of a foundational pillar of sustainable ocean based development. That's why they are all interconnected. One cannot live without this. So we cannot read them in isolation, as you marked in the beginning itself, that how they are all interconnected to each other.
So that's really a strong linkage, because I believe that economic activity and the security are very deeply intertwined. And coming to the coastal, because we know that coastal state always faces the challenges of harnessing marine resources also. But so my question to you now is that how can a coastal states balance the economic utilization of marine resources with environmental sustainability and security considerations? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think it's very important for me. This is very personal, because I've worked in the East Coast and currently I'm working in the East Coast, but I have also worked in the West Coast. I've been in both the places. Currently, because I'm in Pondicherry, this is very, very clearly visible if you look in, because balancing economic utilization with sustainability and security requires what we call as integrated ocean governance framework. Otherwise, everybody will operate in their own way. The fishermen will be generally interested to continuously fishing all the time. But in the West Coast, we have an advantage. In the West Coast, the strict adherence to certain things, let's say for a couple of months or 3 months during the monsoon, no fishermen is allowed. That's the time they breed, and there is sustainability. But whereas in the East Coast, this is comparatively very, very less, and that doesn't lead to conservation. So what it leads to is continuously we will be exploiting, and that will be without regulation, without usage of good technology, and once these two don't exist, we cannot expect multilateral cooperation. This is the first problem. Now the second problem is coastal states must adopt. There is a concept called as the MSP, that is called as the marine spatial planning. This is very, very important. This is very technical. What it does is it allocates ocean space for different users such as fisheries, shipping, conservation zones, and also offshore energy, so that there is a reduction of conflict and it ensures the ecological balance. This is equally important. At the third level, sustainable resource management is a must and need of the hour itself. We talk from the sustainable development goals to everything. Here, I partially mentioned before overfishing, pollution, and habitat destruction. Now, these threaten long-term economic viability itself. In fact, UN made a comment some time ago on this one, saying that ocean degradation is already imposing significant economic costs, while ecosystem services like coral reefs and mangroves provide coastal protection, and also what we also call as the carbon sequestration, which is equally important. At the fourth level, states also must integrate whatever their level they have and the union level they have. We have something called as the security frameworks. Now, these have to come into economic planning, which will lead to monitoring system to counter IUU fishing, maritime pollution, and trafficking. All three will be equally important. Now, digital technologies that we have advanced over a period of time, thanks to the type of technologies that we have satellite surveillance that is available, we have AI tracking, and now, thanks to AI, we also have analytical, AI-driven analytics, perhaps to enhance maritime domain awareness. So this is the best way to utilize technology. At the fifth level, perhaps, there is climate resilience that must be incorporated. Without that, there is no possibility to go forward, because oceans absorb not less than 30% of our CO2 emissions itself. But rising temperatures and sea levels, all these over a period of time threaten infrastructure and livelihood. That's why we see a tsunami coming in, floods normally coming in, depression destroying, lot of all these things, because without enough amount of investments in climate adaptive infrastructure and also nature based solutions, that like Chennai as a metropolitan city is regularly flooded because most of the canals through which the water would flow are choked. So what they have done is, like a protective cover, they have come up with mangroves, artificial mangroves that have been created over a period of time, realizing how important they are in terms of avoiding floods to many other things. Now, these are very, very essential, and that is a core in understanding this one. But finally, governance also must be at multi-level, because we, as a quasi-federal state, we have both the components. We have at each level, we have the marine police, then we have the Coast Guard, and then followed by the Navy. So, but all three are governed at different level. So there should be an understanding that should be there involving national governments, and with coherence in national government and the states at this level, there will be a possibility to adhere to the UN standards and many other ones that perhaps will enlane. So that's why I call this whole thing as a triple nexus approach, which is economic growth, ecological sustainability, and maritime security. So they are interconnected in this way. That is the only way perhaps I see environmental sustainability and security that can be taken into consideration.
So that was very insightful, and that's a very practical framework for the sustainable development also. But not all sectors offer a very equal potential or the urgency. So my next question is also based on that. So, what key sectors within the blue economy framework should countries in the Bay of Bengal region prioritize?
Here I'm telling you, naturally, for over centuries and centuries, what people have been practicing, and that cannot be put aside. That should be the priority for the government. That should be priority for the region. That should be the priority for the whole of the Bay of Bengal region itself. For example, the first thing that comes into my mind is about fisheries and aquaculture. Whether you see Andhra Pradesh, whether you see Tamil Nadu, or whether you see the coastal part of the whole region, starting from Orissa to everything, invariably you will see fisheries and aquaculture being the most sustainable one. I think there is this give and take sort of a scenario that has been part of sustainable understanding for a very long time. And we, just because we have moved on with technology to a lot of other things and our priorities have changed, that should not perhaps change the thought behind in this one. So for me, that's the first priority, because it is the backbone of regional livelihood. That should be kept in mind. And globally, if you look in, ocean-based sector supports not less than at least 100 million jobs. This is significant and this is massive. And that's why these, when they are so concentrated on fisheries and aquaculture, sustainable aquaculture can enhance food security and also export earnings. If you look in the way the coastal regions have become rich, or they've been rising, if you ask me, and but they also get into vulnerable situation. Let's say whenever there is war or there are tariffs, they also go through their own situation. But all said and done, I think there is a possibility for them to commercialize these components, and over a period of time, their livelihoods are standardized. That's first for me. Second one is maritime transport and port infrastructure, because as I mentioned in the beginning, when 80% of the global trade moves by the sea, strengthening ports and logistics is very, very crucial. It's only in the last, let's say, maybe 20 years, I think we have been seriously working on this thing, ports, enhancing them, and many other things. You see the initiatives like the Villinum port in which is a natural port in Trivandrum. Now, over a period of time, this is rising. But at the same time, they also have their own limitations. We still haven't made the best use of it. We haven't created special economic zones around the ports. Now, these are also equally important, because the freight charges that commonly industrialists or industries have to pay through, that's also very expensive. So some of these have to be taken into consideration. So for me, port infrastructure in India should be a priority, because over a period of time, the Indo-Pacific will be a hub of most of these things, and India will make best use of it. That is what I feel. At the third level, I feel coastal and marine tourism. This is also lacking. Maybe a few states are making use of it, but with 7,400 odd kilometers of the coastline, I think we haven't made the best use of it. I think there where development has to happen, sustainability has to happen. No, I don't subscribe to a mindless tourism or anything of that sort, but it has to be a sustainable tourism. It has to enhance, it has to somewhere lead to, states depending on some of these things and making the best use of it. That's my third priority. The fourth priority is offshore renewable energy. Here where wind, tidal and all wave energy will be leading to what we consider as clean energy solutions, and also they will reduce dependence on the fossil fuels. That's the fourth priority. At the fifth level, we have to concentrate on marine biotechnology and seabed resources, because in, let's say, things like pharmaceuticals, where marine organisms and seabed mining, they offer very, very high level value for many of these components. And that's why these are crucial, and that has to be exploited. That is at the fifth level. At the sixth level, shipbuilding and repair. Now, all we create, and then subsequently, if there are, let's say, it can be accident, it can be very, very natural. We have seen that even the best of the best that people build, over a period of time, they get into different type of trouble, and you can't be anticipating to be, reaching somewhere, but you are dependent on for smallest of the small things on someone else. Like the way for weapons, we were dependent on Russians to even come and fix up for a very long time. So we have to become sustainable. That's where I find India and Bangladesh actually can grow together. I think the Bay of Bengal initiative should actually bring in many of these things back into focus, and that should concentrate on industrial growth and employment, which is crucial for both, because we also have a young population that is aspiring, and that aspiring population, if it has to become a boon instead of a bane, this is very, very important. My last one is coastal infrastructure and climate resilience. That's the last priority that I see, because the vulnerability that's associated with cyclones, sea level rise, and many other factors that are associated. So infrastructure is a must, and there is no other way. I've always said government of India should prioritize these sectors so much. Otherwise, you can't expect, because if you throw peanuts, you will only be able to attract monkeys. If you want to attract big level investments, you would want to make the best use of the places. All these things are a must. Otherwise, you cannot diversify the whole idea, and you can't present yourself with a blue economy portfolio just concentrating on one or two sectors as such. So it has to be an overall development for me.
So, Dr. Nanda, those priorities which you have just mentioned are very, very timely and actionable. I personally, got a very good insight from them. So now, but, turning potential into reality also requires the right policies and the institution. And my last question is also based on that. So what policy measures are required to strengthen the implementation of the blue economy framework in the Bay of Bengal region? What's your take on it?
See, though foreign policy is a central subject, the states in the federal structure play also a very, very important role. So for me, while the legislature at the national level will make policies, there is no doubt about it. They will have their own coordination with different departments and other things. I find somewhere the coordinated policy also with the coastal states, giving them that sort of an importance is very, very important. That's the first level which is required here. At the second level, I think what I have observed over a period of time is that our institutions lack capacity. So institutional capacity building is important, because individuals are should never be are never invincible, for that matter. Individuals will come and go. It should never be individual driven component. It should be institutional driven. So irrespective of the leadership changing, irrespective of people coming in and going, if the process is there, then it will never ever create an issue. So once we have a enlightening sort of a policy, which is long term vision one. Secondly, we need institutional capacity. At the third level, regional cooperation is something that we need to explore. If we have, let's say, Andamans, in which we are closest to, to Southeast Asian countries, from the Indira point of view, look, and we are so close to, and I don't think we have made the best use of it. If let's say Thailand comes to the Bay of Bengal and then does deep sea mining, and picks up fishes and other things, I don't think we have made the best use of and utilized it. So for me, this is very, very important. So first and foremost is government should develop, we are trying to do now, we have to further develop national blue economy strategy. And blue economy should not become an elite terminology, because the moment you say there here to some people the word blue economy, people think there is something phenomenal. And I think it should become part of regular conversations. I think people like the Prime Minister should regularly use, so that people find curiosity, and then it becomes part of regular education among the public. That should be the first one. Though it will be a specialized one, and there are individuals who will do, but without without the active participation of the public, it's not going to be, especially the coastal public. They have to get involved in this one. So we have to integrate sectors such as fisheries, shipping, energy, and tourism to a unified policy framework, so that it becomes comprehensive. That's first part. Second part, when we have regional cooperation mechanisms like BIMSTEC, that should be strengthened, where we can handle transboundary challenges such as maritime security, disaster management. HADR is one major thing that we can use and utilize, and we can be first responders. If not net security providers, we can be first responders. It's much more important. And we can always do this one. And here where disaster management and marine pollution, I think most of the countries are suffering with this because of developed nations dumping most of the things in the oceans, and they all land up in certain places. And we have been victims of many of these for a very long time. So that's a very important one. And at the same time, these nations within the BIMSTEC, more specifically because of the Bay of Bengal component, we can have shared maritime domain awareness systems that can enhance surveillance, as also information sharing, which is important. And at the third level, I think investment in sustainable infrastructure is very, very critical. We should have green ports and then climate resistant or resilient coastal infrastructure, low emission shipping systems. I think we are still struggling with many of these things. It will take time because it needs a lot of energy, and that energy is not possible with a clean component. So it will take some time. There is no doubt about it. One cannot be too utopian about achieving many of these components. But still, what I see is maritime transport contributes to around 2.9% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, and there where decarbonization policies should become part of the framework. Otherwise, I don't think we'll take it seriously. This might some might actually call it as securitization of some of these components or blue economy. But whatever said and done, it is important. It should become part of that. And at the fourth level, there should be blue finance mechanisms, because we have already seen in the World Bank there is something called as the Pro Blue Initiative, and we can take cue from that one. There should not be any methodological nationalism in learning. We can learn from anyone. We can learn from anyone. Good practices, best practices can be taken from elsewhere, and we should perhaps expand these and look at if there is a possibility that it supports sustainable projects. And at the fourth level, stronger regulatory framework should be there. Otherwise, every day this is a concern that we are seeing, whether Indian fishermen knowingly enter into the Sri Lankan waters and Sri Lankan fishermen will purposefully do something to us, or we see elsewhere. I think there is some understanding that has to come in. So it has to combat, as a unit, we have to combat illegal fishing, enforce environmental standards, and also protect marine biodiversity. Any laxity in this one will cost us. And finally, as I said, capacity building and technology adoption, I think we are at an advantageous position with ISRO to many others getting involved, and they are of a great help. In fact, when we even came up with, let's say, the South Asian satellite, it helped us to combat a lot of things in the sea. And now blue economy can exploit this one. I think there will be a multi-dimensional approach that can come into this one, and that perhaps will lead to and strengthen the whole implementation of the blue economy framework in the Bay of Bengal region.
So what an insightful discussion, Dr. Nanda Kishor. Thank you so much for your expert perspective on the blue economy and maritime security nexus in the Bay of Bengal. And to our listeners, we hope this episode of Reimagining the Bay of Bengal has also deepened your understanding of how sustainable maritime development and security go hand in hand. And stay tuned for our more discussion on the forces shaping this vital region. Thank you so much.
Thank you.